Some runners start young, build steadily, and chase speed. Others arrive late with full lives, heavy responsibilities, and a quiet determination to do something bold. Today's episode is about the second kind. My guest today is Janet Steer, a mother of three, a full-time professional, and a trail runner who didn't grow up running and didn't believe she had the stamina until she proved herself wrong again and again and again. From finishing the Gobi March in Mongolia to taking on the UTCT 100-miler, Janet's story is one of grit, patience, and learning to trust your own rhythm, even if you're at the back of the pack. Today, we dive into what it means to start late, stay consistent, and find your space on the trails, no matter your pace. Janet, welcome to the Trail Chasers. This season is sponsored by Gilnockie Socks. Yeah. And they've mocked up a pair of socks, which you can see over here. And so I'm going to ask you, I'm not going to put you on the spot now, but I'm going to ask you at the end of the episode what 2 words you would want on your sock. And remember that it's mainly for the person behind you, not, because they'll probably benefit from it most. So let's get into it. When you kind of look back at your life, what are the kind of 5 most pivotal moments of your life?
Wow. Okay. So in no particular order, because that always leads to trouble. I'm thinking really, it's probably when I've made the most pivotal decision. So thinking back when I left school, I actually started studying pharmacy, which I don't know how I managed but I just started studying pharmacy. And I remember in my second year, going into to write my exams in the June and just not putting pen to paper. I'd made a decision. It was not for me. And I just walked out and I said to my dad, I'm done. And that was major because I then went on to just do a general BCom, which led me, in another route. So that was one. Going to London to do my articles. My profession, I'm a chartered accountant, but I don't view myself as an accountant. So that was going to London to finish off my articles. That was also a major pivot. Having children, getting married, children major. I only had my kids very late. My first at 37 and my last at 43. And then another pivotal was just deciding to just do extraordinary things, which is... It started with one thing, and I've always been pretty active, done quite a lot of things, but in the last 2 years, I've just made a decision that I was going to do things that I was too scared to do, but got myself on the start line.
So as you've gotten older, what has trail running meant to you? And I suppose we can go back to kind of pre 2 years ago and post 2 years ago, and when you kind of thought of trail running, like 5 years ago, what did it mean versus now?
Well, I think in some ways we all trail run. I think like when I take my kids on a hike on the mountain, is that not trail running? Doing the best you can. If you can't run, you can be hiking. So I actually, when I look back on my life, I've always done a few extremer things, and I think I was trail running. But I think it was after I did a multi-stage event that I thought, okay, maybe I should look at more trail run specific events. And and suddenly I realized, actually, I'm trail running. There's a definition. This is trail running.
And when was it for you? What was that moment where it was like, hey, I'm now a trail runner?
It was actually before I'd even done a trail running event. It was more... when I got back from having done the Gobi March, and I thought, actually, maybe I could do like a 50 or 100K trail run. Maybe I'll get a coach and maybe I am a trail runner. Maybe I can be a trail runner.
So take me back to the Gobi Desert March. What was the thinking going into it? Why did you do it? What was it all about?
So my dad passed away in 2022. So it was a hard year, and I got a little bit of money, and I thought, I want to use this. I really want to do something exciting. And I sometimes felt that he never really did as much as he could do. There was always an excuse, and that's not to say he didn't do a lot, but I just felt like he could have just done there's so much out there. And I thought, I'm going to do something which for me at the time is like just outrageous, like, can I even do this? And I'm always Googling. I listen a lot to Rich Roll, and I think I heard it on that podcast, someone had said, and I thought, so I started investigating. First, I thought I'd do the Atacama, which is in Chile, but that didn't fit in, and then the Gobi March sprung up. And I mean, I'd never ever run an ultra in my life. I don't know about nutrition. I don't know about electrolytes. I just entered. I knew it's over 5 days, 4 days of marathons, and then 1 day is an 80-kilometer. And you're carrying it's really fast packing. You're carrying, the top people, probably their packs were about 4Ks. Mine was probably almost 10 kilograms. And it was just, I'm going to do this. And I never knew if I could do it. And I got all the instructions. I followed a generic program online. I had no coach, didn't know what to do. I remember I would just hike up Kloof Corner, Platteklip with some dumbbells in my backpack, got heavier and heavier, and did my own nutrition. I knew that they said I had to have 2,000 calories a day. I sort of, okay, what do I eat? And I went to Mongolia. It was just the most extraordinary experience. And I just thought, gee, I want more of this.
And, what are the kind of the most challenging parts of it?
I always think is getting on the start line for me is like the most difficult thing. And also not knowing if you can do it. But I think that also fuels me. I mean, if there's a fizz of possibility, I'm there. So, but for me, I felt there was the guy that actually won it that year. I remember him saying, how do people get blisters? Aren't they experienced? And but like, things happen. Trail running, things happen. And my feet were a mess. Just an absolute mess. And I'd never really had blisters, but just from the sand. And so that was very challenging. And but it was doable. It was okay. And I did it.
How has your kind of perspective on racing and races and running shifted, since then?
I've never ever viewed any event as a race, and I still don't view it as a race. I view myself as a beginner. I can't seem to shift that. Like some of my friends say, but you're not a beginner, but I feel like a beginner. And I never ever, for me, it's not a race. It's about getting from A to B not necessarily as quickly but as best you can. And that to me is how I view most races.
Do you think that, like mentally what you've kind of been through in your life gave you a bit of an advantage starting so late in life?
Absolutely. I think one of my my superpowers is getting on that start line. I'm not afraid to try, and I'm not afraid of the outcome. I mean, there is a bit of ego involved. Like I sort of think, oh gosh, what if I don't finish? But I've realized that to quit something, I always know if I'm debating, if I'm doing an event and I'm like debating, oh, this is so hard, I want to stop, help me. If there's a debate going, I know it's almost like you're not stopping. Yeah, because we actually quit when we reason with ourselves. When you need to withdraw. I think so. For me, nothing is going to stop me unless I have to withdraw. For some reason, maybe it'd be time, or my greatest fear is just an injury, really and even on some that's on the miler. I misjudged a step and I sprained my ankle badly, and I sat down and I could feel the tears welling up. It was in the middle of the night, and I thought, is this it? And it wasn't. I knew it wasn't it. But I also knew it could be it. And I was just trying to how can I knew I had to get to the next stop. I knew I needed some spray. I needed to be strapped. But I think we know when we need to withdraw. And it wasn't at that point.
What has your family's reaction, been to this whole thing?
So when I first started with the Gobi March, I mean, that was huge. Mom, you can't do this. You can't run through the desert. Who do you think you are? But they said that jokingly, but they did believe in me. And I'll never forget. I mean, the support was incredible. Because we could see there was like a computer tent pitched, and I could see people were supporting me. And then when I got home, I'll never forget, and it's still in my garage to this day. It was just on the back of the garage. It's like you raced the planet well, because it was Racing the Planet event.
Yeah.
And it still sticks there. Every day I drive my car in and it says, you raced the planet well.
Yeah.
So I'm incredibly proud, because they were incredibly proud of me.
And, have they gotten into the sport themselves?
With like kids, I've always said, like, you need to expose them to everything. I'm not one who said, you're good at this, you must do this. And I think it's hard work with kids, because when they're young, they don't want to do things. It takes a lot of patience. But we've always been on the mountains. They've, climbed Lion's Head as soon as they could really walk. I've taken them on some quite extraordinary adventures. And yes, they didn't want to go, but I think they're not the best sportsmen, but they've got stamina. And I think stamina is something you build, and they're game for everything once. Like my oldest, no, that was not a vacation. That was flippant torture. Never again. Yeah. There were certain things we've done. But I think he knows the benefit. They start to see the benefit beyond the pain.
What is the most memorable experience you've had as a family?
Well, there's two that, there's been a few. I mean, we've done the Camino. We did like that in over 40 degrees. What was really memorable for me was in lockdown. It was 2020, and it was after the hard lockdown. And I just felt I've got to do something. We need to get out. And it's so funny how things come to you at a certain time. I'd never heard of the 13 Peaks, but just suddenly it was on my radar. And sometimes when things hit my radar, it's like I'm possessed. I'm like, and I remember waking up one day, I said, right, we're doing the 13 Peaks. I mean, Ollie, my youngest, was only, I think, just 7 and when I can be a bit of a Chinese mother, not continuously, but like if I get on certain projects. And it was right, we're doing the 13 Peaks. And we started, I think, on the Friday night. And we were finished the next weekend, and for them, they were young. So I think we missed one day. And, there's long stretches. And I was also pedantic. We had to start where we finished off. And if we finished one day, we had to walk back to that point. I was not.
Yeah.
And I remember that time, Ryan and Vanessa were still giving out the medals, the badges. And I remember going to meet Vanessa. She gave it to me, got one for the dog. Sumi was hoisted up onto every peak. That was also challenging. And then, and then the other one, we did Kilimanjaro last year. Whew. I mean, for me, that was incredibly tough mentally, because just people said, like, isn't it dangerous? You can't. What if your kids with the altitude? There was a lot of like, why are you doing this? I mean, I didn't know, but I knew that I'd put all the places. I'd researched my companies, I'd researched my routes, and I mean, there are a lot of people doing it. Yeah. But having said that, it was flippin' tough.
Yeah.
I mean, particularly my youngest and eldest, they battled initially that bad altitude. One of them was vomiting. It was hard. And but I'm the person, I like to spend money on experiences. I don't have, it was unbelievable. And still to this day, I mean, we talk about it, although as I say, my eldest, I'm not climbing another mountain.
Yeah.
Because I've had a few other ideas. Yeah. He's now, I'm not going to convince him again. It was really, I really recommend it. And there were no families there. Yeah. And I spoke to the guides and they said, not many South African families, which I find is, we have some tough mountains here.
Yeah.
More European and Americans go with their kids. I didn't see any kids when we were up there.
Sure. Looking back at your kind of past adventures that you've done by yourself, which one of them kind of stands out for you?
Well, obviously the Gobi March was huge because it was my first sort of thing that I did. And then I thought, okay, maybe the 100 kilometers was also really, the UT 100 was quite a pivotal moment for me, because that was like a true trail running event. And again, you go in there, you're thinking, are you going to make it or not? So it's for me, and I loved that event. Yeah, I was self-sufficient. That to me was a huge, huge achievement.
Yeah. What are the kind of lessons that you took forward from the Gobi March, that have helped you with your races now?
Well, not only from that one, but in most of the events I've done, it's just like to just chill. That pre-race, like even Killy really destroyed me, not because I was just one thing. It's so different. Different if I'm doing something alone as opposed to with the family. When I'm alone, I'm far more relaxed.
Yeah.
I think Killy took it out of me because I was worrying about the kids. So yeah, being alone is amazing. Yeah, you feel so much more freer, but you miss out on the bonding and the experience with your family. Yes, it's going to get absolutely horrendous, but the minute you just start again, it's like, just start again the next day, or just take one more step, and everything is always changing.
Yeah.
So just don't give up. You know when you have to give up, and that's not giving up. That's, I say, with you know when you have to withdraw.
You're tuning into Remote Trails Radio. Garrick, you have 35 seconds to answer 4 questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
What are the collection of back roads in Washington that you can discover called?
The Washington Backcountry Discovery Route.
On the trail, what's a helpful hand gesture to give the driver you see going the opposite direction?
Oh, you got to give them the shakas. Woo!
A number of fingers for number of cars behind you. What are skinny tires called?
Oh, man, I got some of them. They're pizza cutters.
Which podcast is packed with overlanding advice, P&W gems, and outdoor stories?
That would be the Remote Trails Radio.
After the Gobi March, you mentioned you got a coach.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
how's that experience been, training with a coach versus self-training, before Gobi?
Yes. So definitely. So Brendan's my coach, and definitely what I've learned is that when I'm alone, I avoid the hard stuff. And for me, hard is fast.
Yeah.
I'm not fast. Anyone knows me. If I'm going for a group trail run, I'm generally right at the back. And I think sometimes people think, God, how can she do these longer events? But as I said, I can go for long, but I'm not fast. So I think Brendan has really helped me to try increase my speed, go where I'm really uncomfortable. I hate being out of breath. I don't mind an uphill. I don't mind. Yeah, I just don't like being out of breath. And he's also, I'm aware of my weaknesses now. I need to do strength training. I've never really done that throughout my life. So I've also got a guy that's helping me there, but I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah.
And that's not a personal thing against him. I just don't like being because my ankles are really my weakness, and I think it's just this terrain. Table Mountain is relentless.
Yeah.
There's no little smooth running.
Have you found it's made a difference?
Absolutely. And I think maybe that's age related. I just feel I'm realizing we've got to keep on top of things. And once they start slipping, I feel like I'm deteriorating, but I'm just hanging on, I'm hanging on to keep my strength. You've just got to keep on top of it. And I do battle with my ankles, but they definitely are fast. I'm finding now if I roll them, like, okay, I can just maybe keep going. And then they, like sort of ease back into it. What I've also realized with the strength is that sometimes just resting and ice is not necessarily the answer. It's like keep it moving, and I've learned that. Just keep mobility, keep your injuries mobile.
And you talked a little bit about UT 100. What was the kind of reasoning for that? What was the idea going into it, and why was it so challenging?
Just Well, first of all, I'd never done 100 kilometers. Second of all, at my pace, it was going to be a night affair. You know, it was going to be, I mean, the cutoff was 24 hours. So I think it's just maybe every time it's just venturing into unknown territory, you know, and it's thinking like, can I do this? Can I actually do this?
Yeah. And what was the furthest you kind of had done race-wise before that?
Well, probably that 80 kilometer on the Gobi March, that one stretch. But the thing is, they're so incomparable because there's nothing like Table Mountain. I think our ultras, you know, that Gobi, yes, there were stretches. There was desert. There was, I'll never forget, we did the one day we had to go up this sharp, steep mountain. And for me, yes, it was steep, but some of the people, it was like, oh my gosh, you know, this is quite a few of the American people. Like, I don't think they've got the elevation and the vert that we've got. Yeah. So it's a different, I think it's just the relentless climbing that UT 100. It's just up, down, you know. I think that's what makes it so challenging.
How did you kind of deal with that? You know, as you said, you kind of slow back of the pack, but like making sure you kind of keep ahead of cutoff. Was that particularly difficult?
No. So I always factor in kind of, I don't want to be, when I say cutoff, I'm like, I want to at least be an hour or two beyond cutoff.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've always got that factored in, and I don't want to be with the sweeper.
Yeah.
To me, I don't want to be with the sweeper. So I'm always trying to be like maybe 2/3. You know, I want to have quite a few people behind me. And I'm quite good at judging that. And I sort of know my place. You know, whether I could push myself more, maybe, but when you're doing a distance where you don't know, you know, you've got to save your energy. But I was happy. I think I did it in 22 and a half or so. So I was fine. You know, I'm not like, I'm going to get cut off.
And, you know, were there kind of low moments in that race, and how did you kind of push through it?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose because I'm now thinking of the UTCT, which was, very different. There were probably more low moments in that. No, I loved UT 100. It was amazing. I mean, hard, but like nothing like, oh my gosh, at that moment I thought, I knew I was going to do it.
And what was it like finishing it?
So that's another thing is when you start at 5 a.m., or actually it started in 6 that year, and then I knew I was going to come in the black, you know, the pitch dark. Yeah. It's very different. There's no glory, I think, in trail running, absolutely none. If you're there for the crowds and the cheering, it's not going to happen. Yeah. I mean, I rolled in, I think, at 4:30 in the morning. I barely got a photograph because the light's so bad. But it's not about that for me. It was not many people there. I mean, who's going to be there? I mean, not even the people that were running. I think the 35K it was probably the worst time to finish a race if you wanted accolades. Yeah. But it was a bit different in UTCT, so I'm okay with that, you know. It's not a glamour sport.
And, you know, how do you kind of fit your training and your races, especially for these kind of long distances? How do you kind of fit that into daily life, mom life, work life, all of that?
So I usually work backwards. Like, for example, so I generally run Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Generally, I'm breaking on Monday, Friday. And Saturday and Sunday, I'm on the mountain or I'm doing trails. So Saturday, there's always sport. It's just the way. So I'm usually having to look at the match schedules. Okay, oh shit, they're starting at 9. Yeah. Oh great, it's only 10:30. And then I work backwards. If I've got a 3-hour run, I mean, it's easier in summer. Yeah. But last weekend, I'm 5 o'clock, my alarm's going. I know I've got to be there, but it's just really working it all out. Yeah. So I do, and if I can't do it in the morning, I'll do it in the late afternoon. Yeah. So, but it's not so much factoring, you know, my kids are not young now. They're 11, 14 and 17. So they're very independent, but I like to support them and I can't just be absent. Yeah. Feeding them, it's like sometimes I'm coming back, oh shit, I haven't done supper. Feeding is probably bigger than actually stealing time. Just getting food on the table constantly.
And do you think those type of challenges, make it easier for you to run these kind of big distances? Has that kind of taught you a resilience?
It's funny because whenever I do one, it's like, oh, never again. Never again. Why do I do this to myself?
Yeah.
And then a week or two later, you're starting like you just start like that little bubble it starts to fizz again. And I don't think it makes it any easier. Like I think I was trying to do 5 kilometers as fast as I could this morning. And after I'd done 5Ks, I thought, how would I ever do 20 or 18 times more than this? It's So I don't know. I think we prepare ourselves for as much as we need to do.
Yeah.
So if it's 5Ks, I'm done.
Yeah.
Can't do another step.
Yeah.
If it's 160Ks, I'm done at the end of the 160.
Yeah, that's an interesting observation.
Trail running beats up everything, your legs, your lungs, and especially your feet. The last thing you need is socks that give up before you do. That's why I'm thrilled to announce that this season of Trail Chasers is sponsored by Gilnockie Socks. These aren't just your run-of-the-mill socks. Gilnockie socks are made for people who demand more. More performance, more durability, and more comfort. They're designed to prevent blisters with premium moisture-wicking materials that keep your feet dry no matter how long or muddy the trail gets. Plus, they're treated with HydroCool and Silver Plus, so they stay fresh, breathable, and ready for your next adventure. Since I started using Gilnockie socks, I haven't had to stop mid-run to adjust or worry about discomfort. They just keep working mile after mile, run after run. So why settle for socks that don't keep up? Visit gilnockie.com and use the code TRAILCHASERS at checkout for 20% off your first order. Trust me, once you try them, you won't go back. Your feet will thank you.
And, do you believe that like age is kind of an advantage in endurance sports?
I do think it is, in the sense, I remember actually on the UT 100, we were actually, I forget now, just approaching Constantia before we came down. Okay. And there was a young guy. I'd sort of been like you sort of get to know the same people straddling him. And he suddenly said, I'm quitting. I said, what do you mean you're quitting? Like I said, are you absolutely crazy? You've got like maybe 30 maximum. You're quitting. No, I'm quitting. And he was dead serious. He sat down and he said, I said to him, what? It was just unfathomable. It was like, no, I'm cramping. I said, you don't look like you're cramping. I said, what are you doing? I said, get up. You're not quitting. I said, I'm not lying. He was going to quit.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether it's an ego or a time thing, but for me, I don't care. I do think definitely older we are. With the UTCT, I was very scared because I knew it was going to be 2 full nights.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to be 2 long nights. And that scared me a bit because I thought, what if I get, what does sleep deprivation mean? Will I become absolutely crazy? And I just remember it took one comment from another actually lady that was the same age. She said to me, Janet, you've raised 3 boys. You've had countless sleepless nights. What are you worrying about 2 nights without sleep?
Yeah.
And I really called on that. When you raise kids, and I've had many a sleepless night.
Yeah.
And it was such a comfort. I kept thinking, I can do this. It's not about doing hard things. I don't think it's about, it's just about doing things that push us and for some weird reason just give us so much fulfillment.
Why was it kind of that you went straight for the big distances,
Maybe because I realize I'm not good at fast and short distances. I also find I find them very intense, so many people around you, and I find I'm influenced by them. I find like I can't get into my own rhythm. But I find the longer distance, you earn your space.
Yeah.
You earn that place where it's your rhythm, your speed, and it's just you. And I think that's what I really love. I find if I do like a 20K or a 21, yes, it's great, but it's like you're never really like just alone.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I really feed off, that solitary meditation, one step, you can only hear your own footsteps. I love that.
How did it evolve from UT100 to UTCT?
So I think obviously in the Gobi, I was also a lot on my own. UT100, quite a lot on my own. And so then what happened is I thought, I want to maybe do UT100 again. Maybe I can break 20 hours. Maybe that would be a goal. But the more I sat with that, the more, so I break 20 hours. For me, that doesn't. So, and then I thought, what about if I could spend a whole weekend on the mountain? Just me, and be allowed to be there. I have permission to be there. It's not that I'm being crazy because I'm alone, with security. I can fully be in the mountains for the whole weekend. And that to me was just so like a carrot.
Yeah.
And can I do this?
Yeah.
When will I ever get another chance? So that was it.
And how did the training kind of step up from?
Well, I didn't give Brendan much time because in true my style, I seem to enter on closing date because I'm always like, well, what if something happens, or, what if I change? I don't know. So generally, both UTCTs I've entered on closing date. And with that, I think about 3 weeks before the closing date, I said to Brendan, you know what, this 100's not doing it for me. I don't even know if I'll go. If I do it, I don't know if I'll make it because there's nothing. But I feel I can do the miler. And I'd almost made the decision, and I said to him, will you back me? Like, I don't want to ruin your reputation. And then, he said, no, okay, we can do this. Let's just added 2-3 more hours to my weekend runs. But I don't really know if that makes a difference. I felt I could do it.
And at that stage, were you training to do UT100 again?
Yeah.
Okay. So it wasn't completely...
No. I'd sort of said, let's do UT100. And then I'd sort of changed maybe about 6 weeks before and said, no, let's do an extra 60 Ks.
Yeah. And what were the nerves like, making that decision? And
that was big. And once I had committed, then I actually realized the magnitude of the decision. I don't know if I'd do it again because I found it, they encourage you to have paces. Yeah. And that made me just already start to shiver. To think now, I think it's in my nature. I thought now I've got to, not only have I got to look after myself, I've got to look after these 2 paces.
It's the other way around though. They're meant to be looking after you.
Me. And it was so stressful for me. Yeah, it was. And also now 2 nights, am I going to start hallucinating? So before that, I was very, very nervous. And I realized that post the race, my nervous system, neurologically, I was finished, not physically. But the funny thing is, it's funny how paces, Brendan said to me, you have to have paces. Yeah. And when I look back, they were an absolute godsend. Yeah. I mean, they couldn't have been more opposite. I had Chai, who, she was just unbelievable. She arrived. She meant business. She picked me up in Cork Bay. And it was like, we got to do this. And she was bossing my family around, no, you got to have this ready. She would phone them. But you know what? She bought me so much time. Yeah. I would have been, and she knows I say it affectionately, she was incredible. Yeah. And because there's 100 kilometers in the middle that you can have paces. And then I had Martinez on either end, the night stretches. Yeah. And because I wanted him, but you can start at Llandudno, you can get a pace. And I knew I was rolling in there at 2 a.m. in the morning. And there was Martinez, 1 o'clock in the morning, waiting for me at Llandudno. And as I said, they couldn't have been more different. It was like Martinez and I was like the blind leading the blind. The second night, he not only did he fall so badly coming down into Harp Bay, I mean, his ankle, he was actually supposed to go with me much further, but he had to go home at Hart Bay to go and strap himself. Like, it was just so bad. I mean, I actually thought he was crashing down on me, and I thought, there's no way he's going to return tonight. He is done. I tell you, there he was at in Komaki waiting for me. I couldn't see his legs because they were so strapped. I mean, it was like held together with tape. I'll never forget. I mean, we had to climb Chapman's Peak. I don't know if you've done it from the Noordhoek side. It is horrendous in the middle of the night. And that stretch from Noordhoek to Constantia, oh, it went on and on. And we were both like feeding off each other. It was, if I look back now, it was horrendous. He saw the worst of me, the worst. But you're always the worst to the person that's closest to you. I apologized to him because I was like, do you not know how far this is? You told me that it was X kilometers. We've got now another 20. I was just, it's comical. But I'm telling you, I'm so grateful. And he said to me during we had agreed that if I finished, I would take him, because I swim most days in the cold water. And I said, you've got to come for a swim with me. And he hates cold water, but he did. He honored his word. So I'm very, very grateful to both Chai and Martinez. They were unbelievable.
And, you mentioned there were obviously nerves and fears. And did any of that actually get, come to bear? Like the hallucinating and the...
No, I didn't find the sleep a problem at all. I never slept. I mean, I thought maybe I might have a 20-minute nap, or never felt the need.
Yeah.
That was incredible. Physically, yes, I was tired, but I think for me, once I'd got, there's a cutoff in Constantia, I made it well within my time. But then, like, I had no more paces, and that last stage, which is the 23 kilometer, from...
That's, the race,
I think I was slightly like, I knew I had it in the bag. I just was dawdling along, watching the 35. I mean, stepping aside for every runner that was flying past me, because that race was going on.
Yeah.
And then I met some good friends, and we chatted. It was like, it felt surreal. And suddenly I kept, oh my gosh, I felt like, I was just being distracted. Yeah. And the blockhouse, I couldn't find the route up. I swear they changed it. Yeah. And I was like, I remember walking back and forth. Where do I go? I think I was in a bit of a dwell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like it.
But I knew there was no urgency. I knew that I had done it. And it just shows, because for me, that's really what it's about, finishing.
Yeah. And how was that, finishing?
I felt I'd finished at UTCT, the applause that I got. It was unbelievable. And I remember I had a lot of friends there. I felt I've never, ever experienced like feeling like such a celebrity as I came in there. Yeah. But I kept saying, I'm not finished. I'm not done. What's this about? I'm not done. I've still got to... I think people think you've got it in the bag. I knew, And the eventual finish was unbelievable. But almost UCT felt like the finish.
Yeah.
Sorry, I meant to say UCT earlier. No, but it was unbelievable. I mean, this time it was actually, I came in during prize giving. I was hoping to come in just before 12, but I think my dawdling didn't help. So I came in while prize giving was on, but it was amazing. Yeah. I think sometimes I don't really give credit to myself. Like I don't, I'm convinced everyone can do it.
Yeah.
I'm convinced everyone can do a miler. I really think if you want to do anything, you can.
And how did you kind of deal with that, rolling your ankle, picking yourself up from that?
Yes, so that was about, I think it was 10 or 11 at night, and I was on the top of Table Mountain. And, it's hard. It's 2 full nights with headlamps, but thanks to LED Lenser, I'd bought two lamps, but then they had these backup that you could like borrow their light. They were amazing, these lights. So, and in fact, on the Saturday, I was actually running with 4 lights in my pack, and Chai again, what are you doing? You've got about 3 kilos of lights. I was so scared I was going to not see because on the UT 100, I lost my watch, failed, and my light failed.
Mm.
So those were two hard moments. I had no light, no phone. In fact, sorry, I used my phone light so bad, so inexperienced. But yeah, I miscalculated. I misstepped. I stepped down a rock, and I thought I'd landed before, and it just went right over. It was like a shearing. It was terribly sore. And I sat down on that rock. I remember turning off my little LED lens and light. And I was just like, okay, what are you feeling? And I could feel the tears starting to run down. I said, Janet, is this it? And I knew there was the Table Mountain station about probably less than 1 kilometer away. Obviously, that's not a support station, but there are people there. And my poles, gosh, my lecky sticks, thank heavens for them. So I really hobbled there. And when I got there, I said, the thing is, I knew though, so you got to keep walking on it.
Yeah.
I've learned that. Unless it's like just absolutely, but I knew. And I got there, they sprayed it, they strapped it, and there was a bit of a flattish stretch to follow, and just kept moving. And then Llandudno, I didn't dare open it. And I remember in Harp Bay, I remember my eldest son, he's like quite good at first aid. He restrapped it, he did everything, and it actually faded into insignificance. But I honestly thought my race was over.
Yeah.
And I just thought, this is not how I wanted to bow out.
And high moments and low moments during that race?
Yeah, as I said, high moments UCT. It just felt like I had made it. You know, like that was probably, if one wants a glory, I got a bit of glory there. And another moment was, so Martinez had to go home and sort of strap, and so I was alone going Chapman's Peak and then going up by East Forts. I forget what is my mind. But anyway, my brother-in-law just happened to be running.
Oh, wow.
And he joined me and he just was with me. It was the most, it just felt like I wasn't on the race.
Yeah.
That's the thing with these races. Sometimes you're with no one. You're with no one. It doesn't even feel like a race. No one even knows. You can run past people, they've got no idea, you know. And so that stretch was just a beautiful stretch. I was just so, and then going into the reserve, oh God, from Harp Bay, we're going over into
Constantia.
No, where the dams are, where the dam is.
No.
Silver Mine, sorry.
Oh, yes, yeah.
It was just an unbelievable stretch. And the highs, Table Mountain, Platter Clip, the night we started, they just lit the mountain.
Yeah.
I have never, it was just, although it wasn't moonlight, it was just so incredibly beautiful. Climbing Platter Clip, it was lit up. It was just stunning. And because I drive past Table Mountain most days because I go on Duval Drive or Philip Cassana Drive. And Table Mountain is always there. And before the UTCT, I would talk to that mountain. I would say, I'm coming for you. I'm coming soon. I'm going to be climbing you. I'm not lying. People must think I'm possessed, like I'd be in the traffic. I'm coming. I'm literally, you're going to look after me. You know, you're going to protect me. I must sound insane, but and that night these lights came on. And for me, it was just like, welcome.
Yeah.
You're here. The mountains got you. Anyway, makes me so emotional. It was just so incredibly beautiful. We live in such an incredibly beautiful city.
And finishing that race, you know, when was there a moment, as you said, you're done, you're not doing anything like this, and then when did that kind of switch to what's next?
Yeah, I think it's almost like I found, as I said, the preparation. There's a huge jump from 100 Ks to 160 Ks. 100 Ks to 100 miler. I realized nutrition, paces. It's just like, to me, like I think 24 hours is a manageable piece of time. Like, and I'm useless when it comes to nutrition and electrolytes and things. I just like, and also it's a whole weekend. I've just got to eat. I don't think I fuel myself well, but then I don't really get gut issues, but it's like, I don't know. But that, I mean, maybe it would be better if I did another miler, I'd have the experience. But a miler, I don't know, it sort of detracted from the enjoyment. I think what I want, I like a long distance, but maybe on a fast packing where everything is prepped before you leave. It's in your bag. Whereas with a miler, there's this continual interaction with the support sense, with people. So you've got there's this option to have anything you want or anything you need. So where does it end?
Yeah.
I like to know, this is what I've got. This is all I need. This is all that I can have.
Yeah.
And it just, for me, that makes it so much less stressful and more peaceful.
And what advice would you give to someone kind of starting out running, trail running?
Well, for me, whether you jump from 50 Ks to 100 Ks is no difference jumping from 5 to 10. And we've all got a starting point. I've had a starting point. So if 2 Ks or climbing Platter Clip is your limit, so be it. It makes no difference. In fact, which was so incredibly humbling and just really, so one of the podium placed people this year on the miler, he actually just sent me a note. He said, well done, for soldiering on for 2 days, So I said, but, I'm in awe of you to do it to do this race in like 22 hours.
Yeah.
And he said, it doesn't matter. We all ran the same race. And I think it doesn't matter. Don't compare yourself to other people. We all run our own race. And if 5 Ks is going to make you feel like $1 million, and that's like really where that fear comes in, like, can I do it? Just push yourself to that level. And then add a K. Or do. Everyone's different in their risk exposure, but just push a little and a little and a little.
And if you had to go back to yourself at, before that Gobi Desert March, what would you kind of say to yourself?
Well, I sort of believed, I was always someone I thought I couldn't run. I had no stamina, and I think that comes from childhood. And I remember my mom saying to me, Janet, we're going to do a 10K. I must have been about 8 or 9. And I remember we were kitted out in our red satin joggers, in that was the fashion, and a white T-shirt. And it was a long Sea Point beachfront. And I think I'd done about 1 kilometer, and I got a stitch and I collapsed. And my mother put me on a bench. She said, you've got no stamina. Sorry, Mom, but that's what you said to me.
Yeah.
You've got no stamina. I'm carrying on. You just wait on this bench. And I remember waiting on that bench, and she ran. She wasn't a big runner, but she was determined. She did her 10 Ks and picked me up, and I did the last. But I always felt I had no stamina, and maybe I have got stamina. I remember when I first got to the UK, I lived there for about 8 years, and I did something called the Caledonian Challenge, which is like when I didn't know at the time, I actually was trail running. It was like a 24-hour event. You had to do I think 80 or 90 kilometers over the Scottish Highlands. I just went and did it. I just did it. I didn't know that trail running, you trained for things. So I've got an ability to believe I can do something, but it only kicked in, I don't know when. It's just, it's something. I think maybe it was the fact I had to prove to myself I have stamina, and I know I have.
Do you regret not starting earlier?
No, because I do think it's hard on your body. And a lot of people say to me, oh, but you're damaging what you're doing to your body. But having said that, it's created an incredible awareness of my body. So now if I've got a niggle, or I've started to do strength training, only because I don't think I would have done it, because I wouldn't have known that it was necessary.
Yeah.
So I don't wish I'd started I think I started at the right time. How long it's going to continue, I don't know. But I think, it's made me so aware of how we really need to honor and just keeping our bodies in as best condition as we can.
Yeah.
So we break them down, but we need to just build them up just a little bit more than we break it down.
So that's kind of the biggest lesson you've learned?
What? Just that fact that we need to strengthen our body.
Yeah.
Yes, I've realized I'm not invincible. Yes, and I think that's almost like the challenge. I want to keep doing it, but maybe at the older we get, the more it's harder. When you're young, you can just go do things.
Yeah.
So I'm realizing now, but that's good. I feel, we can't take our bodies for granted. And I think when we get old, they can decline so quickly, so rapidly. It's almost like you've just really got to keep on working on your body.
Looking forward, what's kind of short, medium, long term?
I don't know, people ask, and it's like me, I've always, like now I've signed up for nothing. It's like I'm like surveying, like my antennas are up. I'm like looking. And for me, it's about something to just grab my attention, or just, and then an awareness, and then I start investigating.
And in the moment, what does your kind of training look like?
So I often will say to Brendan, oh, maybe I'll do the mat one. And
then he plans you for it because he knows that it's...
Maybe, or maybe. I think he knows, he's starting to know my maybes, you know, like, I don't know whether I'm not committing to myself or not committing to him, but I think he's sort of got to feel, oh, maybe then I might need a pass marathon just to train me. Maybe, you know, like, I don't know why I do that. I don't know if it's a self-protection, but there's a few maybes. I need to just sign up.
Do you feel like it's easier to kind of make the decision kind of later when you kind of like you need to make it today or
I'm not one to like, you know, I never understand the people that say, okay, in 2-3 years I'll do a Milo, I'll do this. I'm not like that. I get a feeling.
Do you think it's an age thing though?
Well, maybe it is because, you know, like often when I'm running the most trail runners, they're young, you know, I mean, it's so trendy now. And what races are you doing? You know, I don't sign. I think it's an age thing. Yeah. I think it's an age thing, and maybe it's self-protection. I almost like envisage myself doing it, but I haven't fully committed to it.
You feel intimidated running with younger people? Feel out of place? Do you feel?
I did, but I'm sort of now beginning, you know, like I've earned my place. I can stand my ground. You know, a lot of the people, they probably think, God, who's this old Dunny, like, you know, trundling at the back, you know, because that's where I am, you know, but like, so, and it's good for me because I find I need to run faster. Yeah. So I need to go. I find like sometimes a group run for me is so intimidating. I get so nervous because I hate having to keep up. Yeah. But I need to do that far more than I do because it's out of my comfort zone and I run faster and I get fitter. So I need it. Yeah. So I'm coming for, I need the young people.
Well, after this podcast, hopefully everyone will know you. So it'll be amazing. When we started, I mentioned the socks and what 2 words you'd like on the back of the socks. So if you had a pair of socks, what would it say on the back?
Well, the funny thing is, the first thing that came to mind was just try. But then to see that if I'm running behind someone, you know, just try. It's not so. I don't know if that would really get me. Never quit. Don't quit. Because quitting to me is a decision. Yeah. Withdraw if you have to pull out, but don't quit.
I love it. Yeah. Thank you very much. This was amazing. And I'm excited to follow your journey. And
I don't know. I'm not looking forward to listening to what I just said.
No, it was amazing. It was amazing. Okay. I think really, really helpful, and it's nice to get a different perspective.
Okay. Well, thank you. I hope to be running for much longer.
So hopefully we'll have you on here a few more times.
Maybe. Not as a beginner.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thanks, Dean.
Subscribe to the Trail Chasers today and ensure that you never miss an episode. And if you know someone thinking about starting trail running, share this with them. It might be the nudge they need to join you.